The customer service catastrophe. Why 68% of customers leave after inconsistent experiences. You know what keeps me up at night? It's not the big dramatic business failures. It's the slow bleed, the kind where a business owner looks at their numbers 6 months later and goes, wait, where did everyone go? And here's the thing. Most of them never see it coming because they're focused on getting new customers while the back door is wide open, just hemorrhaging the ones they already have. So let me tell you about this statistic that should terrify every small business owner. 68% of customers leave after inconsistent experiences. Not bad experiences, inconsistent ones. That's the real killer. I've spent the last 3 decades working with businesses, and I can tell you, this is the silent assassin. The thing that's slowly draining your profitability while you're busy putting out fires elsewhere. Hey, before we dive deeper, if you're getting value from this, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what your biggest customer service challenge is right now. I will read every single one, and honestly, your experiences help shape what I talk about on this channel. Plus, the algorithm loves engagement, and it helps other small business owners find this content. All right, let's get into it. The real problem? So here's what's actually happening in most small businesses. Monday, Sarah answers the phone. She's been with you for 3 years. She knows every customer by name. She handles a return with grace and speed. Customer leaves happy. Wednesday, it's Mike. New guy, still learning. Same situation comes up. Same product, same issue. But Mike doesn't know the protocol. He puts the customer on hold for 15 minutes while he figures out who to ask. Customer leaves frustrated. Friday, it's Sarah again, but she's having a rough day. She's short with a customer. Not rude, just not Sarah at her best. That customer had a great experience last time, but today they're wondering what changed. You see what's happening here? 3 different experiences, same business, same issue. And that customer, they don't care that Mike is new or that Sarah had a bad day. They just know that your business is unreliable. And here's the brutal math on this. Acquiring a new customer costs anywhere from 5 to 25 times more than retaining an existing one. I've seen it go even higher in some industries. Think about that. Every single customer walking out that back door because of inconsistent service, you're going to have to spend 5 to 25 times what you spent to get them in the first place just to replace them. But wait, it gets worse because that customer doesn't just leave quietly. They leave reviews. And you know what I've noticed? People don't write reviews about consistently mediocre experiences. They write reviews when they feel betrayed by inconsistency. I used to love this place, but that's the review that kills you. The heart of it, process documentation. Now here's where most business owners glaze over, and I get it. When I say process documentation, your eyes start to glaze over too, right? It sounds like corporate bureaucracy. It sounds like red tape and binders gathering dust on a shelf. But let me reframe this for you because this is where the magic actually happens. Process documentation isn't about creating some massive manual that nobody reads. It's about answering one simple question. What does good look like here? Think about it like this. You go to your favorite coffee shop and you know that your cappuccino is going to be perfect. Doesn't matter if it's Tuesday morning or Saturday afternoon. Doesn't matter who's working. Why? Because someone at some point said, here's exactly how we make a cappuccino. Here's the temperature. Here's the foam consistency. Here's how we hand it to the customer. That's not bureaucracy. That's respect for your customer's time and money. Let me give you a real use case I see all the time. Small retail business. Let's say a boutique. Customer wants to return something. Simple, right? But here's what actually happens. One employee says, sure, no problem. Here's your refund. Another says, do you have your receipt? A third one says, I'm sorry, we only do store credit. A fourth says, let me check with my manager. Now maybe there is a policy. Maybe it's refunds with receipt within 30 days, store credit without. But if that's not documented, if it's not trained consistently, if it's not reinforced, you get chaos. And chaos is expensive. All right, let's talk about Chick-fil-A for a minute. And I know what you're thinking. I'm not a fast food chain. What does this have to do with my business? Stay with me here, because this is where it gets interesting. You know what's wild about Chick-fil-A? You can go to one in Atlanta, one in Seattle, one in Miami, doesn't matter. The experience is eerily consistent. And I don't just mean the food, I mean the entire interaction. Someone's going to smile and say, "My pleasure," when you thank them. Someone's going to offer to refill your drink. If it's raining, there's a good chance someone's going to be outside with an umbrella taking orders. The bathrooms are going to be clean. The play area is going to be maintained. Now here's what most people miss. Chick-fil-A isn't great because they hire better people than everyone else. They're great because they've systematized excellence. Let me break down what they actually do that you can steal for your business. And I mean really steal, not just admire from afar. First thing, they script the critical moments. And before you roll your eyes about scripts, hear me out. They don't script everything. They script the phrases that matter most. "My pleasure," instead of "no problem" or "you're welcome." Why? Because "my pleasure" communicates something different. It says serving you is genuinely enjoyable, not just tolerated. You can do this in your business. What are the 3 phrases your team should always use? When greeting someone, when handling a complaint, when closing a transaction? Document those. Make them non-negotiable. Not the whole conversation, just the moments that define the experience. Second thing, and this is huge, they hire for attitude and train for skill. I've watched Chick-fil-A hire 16-year-olds with 0 restaurant experience and turn them into service machines within weeks. How? Intense, focused training on their specific processes. Most small businesses do the opposite. They hire for experience and then just throw people onto the floor. "Oh, you worked retail before? Great, you'll figure it out." That's how you get inconsistency. Here's what Chick-fil-A does differently. Every new employee goes through the same training program. They learn the same procedures, they practice the same scenarios, they're evaluated on the same standards. Before they ever interact with a customer solo, they've done it dozens of times with a trainer. Can you implement this in a small business? Absolutely. Create a 2-week onboarding protocol. First 3 days, they shadow your best person. Next 3 days, they practice with supervision. Next 3 days, they handle customers with someone nearby. Last few days, they're on their own but with daily check-ins. Simple, scalable, effective. Third thing, they empower frontline employees to fix problems immediately. This is the one that really separates them. Have you ever noticed that if something goes wrong at Chick-fil-A, it gets fixed right then? You don't get, "Let me check with my manager." The person in front of you makes it right. But here's the thing people miss. That's not chaos. That's structured empowerment. They've defined what employees can do without asking. Free meal to fix a mistake? Do it. Refund? Do it. Extra sauce? Obviously, do it. They've documented the boundaries. Within these boundaries, you have full authority to make the customer happy. Outside these boundaries, escalate. Simple. Most small businesses don't do this. They either give no authority, everything requires management approval, which slows everything down, or they give complete authority with no guidelines, which leads to inconsistent decisions and sometimes expensive mistakes. You need the middle path. Document what employees can do on their own. You can offer a discount up to 20% to resolve a complaint. You can replace a product without approval. You can refund up to $50 without asking. Whatever makes sense for your business, then train people on when to use that authority. Fourth thing, and this is the one most businesses completely miss, they measure and reinforce constantly. Chick-fil-A is obsessive about metrics, speed of service, accuracy of orders, cleanliness scores, customer satisfaction. But here's the key. They don't just measure, they share the results with employees and celebrate the wins. When a location hits their service time goals, everyone knows. When customer satisfaction scores go up, everyone knows. That constant feedback loop reinforces the behaviors they want. You can do this on a small scale. Pick 3 metrics that matter for customer service. Maybe it's response time to emails. Maybe it's number of repeat customers. Maybe it's average review rating. Track them weekly. Share them with your team. Celebrate improvements. Here's a real use case I saw work beautifully. Small auto repair shop, 3 mechanics. They started tracking 3 things. How often they called customers with updates, how accurate their time estimates were, and their Google review rating. Every Monday morning, 10-minute meeting, they'd review the numbers from the previous week. First week they tracked it, they were calling customers with updates maybe 40% of the time. By week 12, it was 95%. Why? Because they saw the number, they knew they were being measured, and there was positive reinforcement when it went up. Their Google rating went from 4.1 to 4.8 in 6 months. Same mechanics, same quality of work, just consistent communication. Fifth thing, and this is subtle but powerful, Chick-fil-A has a culture of modeling excellence. Managers work alongside employees. The owner-operators are in the restaurants. When things get busy, everyone jumps in. That does something psychological. It reinforces that the standards apply to everyone. In small businesses, this is actually easier to implement than in big companies. You're probably already working alongside your team. But are you modeling the customer service behaviors you want to see? Are you greeting customers with the same energy you expect from your employees? Are you handling complaints the way you've documented? Because here's what happens. If you document a process but then don't follow it yourself, your team learns that the process is optional. But if they see you adhering to it, even when it's inconvenient, it becomes culture. Now, the brilliant thing about what Chick-fil-A has done, and this is what you really need to understand, is they've created a system that's bigger than any individual employee. That's the whole point. Sarah can have a bad day, and the system carries her. Mike can be brand new, and the system guides him. That's what you're building with documentation and discipline. You're not trying to clone your best employee. You're trying to create a system that elevates everyone to a consistent standard. And look, I'm not saying you need to be Chick-fil-A. You don't need their resources or their infrastructure. But the principles scale perfectly to a business of any size. Script your critical moments. Train intensely up front. Empower within boundaries. Measure what matters. Model excellence yourself. Do those 5 things, and you'll see the same kind of consistency that makes Chick-fil-A Chick-fil-A, adapted to whatever your business is. The discipline part. The hard truth. Here's the thing nobody wants to talk about. Documentation without discipline is just paper or digital files nobody opens. I worked with a restaurant owner a while back. Great guy, amazing food. He spent weeks creating this beautiful operations manual, had everything in it. How to greet customers, how to handle complaints, timing for each course, even how to fold the napkins. 6 months later, I came back. Know what I found? The manual was literally gathering dust on a shelf in the back office. Staff had never seen it. When I asked him about it, he just shrugged and said, "Yeah, we never got around to training people on it." That's where most small businesses die. Not in the creation. Creation is actually the easy part. It's in the discipline of implementation. And look, I'm not talking about being a tyrant here. I'm talking about creating a culture where consistency matters, where someone can say, "Hey, I noticed you handled that return differently than our protocol. Can we talk about why?" without it being World War III. The discipline comes in layers. You know what I mean? First layer, you actually document the critical processes. And by critical, I mean the stuff that touches customers. How you answer the phone, how you handle complaints, how you process orders, how you deal with angry customers, how you follow up. Start there. Second layer, you train people on it. Not once. Not in some boring 3-hour session where everyone's checking their phones. You make it part of onboarding, you role-play scenarios, you make it real. Third layer, and this is where it gets tough, you hold people accountable. You check in, you observe, you give feedback, you reinforce. Fourth layer, you update the documentation when you discover better ways. Because here's a secret. Your first draft is going to be wrong about some things. The best businesses I've seen treat their processes like living documents. The gotchas. What experience taught me? Let me tell you about the counterintuitive stuff, the things that only make sense after you've been in the trenches. Gotcha number 1. More documentation is not better. I see businesses create these encyclopedic manuals that cover every possible scenario. You know what happens? Nobody reads them because they're overwhelming. Focus on the 20% of situations that happen 80% of the time. Master those first. Gotcha number 2. Your best employee is sometimes your worst enemy when it comes to consistency. Yeah, I said it. You've got Sarah. She's amazing. She handles every situation perfectly. Customers love her. but she does it all instinctively, right? She doesn't follow a process because she doesn't need one. The problem, you can't clone Sarah. And when you try to train someone else, Sarah just says, I don't know, I just do it. Not helpful. That's why you need to extract what Sarah does instinctively and turn it into something teachable. Sit with her, watch her, document what works. That's how you scale excellence. Gotcha number 3. Your processes will make you slow before they make you fast. There's this awkward phase where people are learning the new way and everything takes longer, and you're tempted to just say, forget it, everyone go back to doing whatever. Don't. Push through. That awkwardness is temporary. The consistency is permanent. Let me paint you some real scenarios. Use case 1. The HVAC company. They had 3 technicians. Customer calls with a broken AC. Depending on which tech shows up, they might get a full diagnostic with options and explanations, or they might get a, yeah, you need a new unit with no details. The inconsistency was killing them in reviews. They documented a diagnostic protocol. Every tech follows the same steps, uses the same checklist, presents options the same way. 6 months later, their Google reviews went from 3.8 stars to 4.7. Same technicians, same quality of work, just consistent delivery. Use case 2, the online retailer. They were getting hammered on customer service emails. Response times were all over the place, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes 2 days. Quality of responses? Totally dependent on who answered. They created response templates for the 15 most common issues, set clear response time standards, and implemented a simple tracking system. Customer complaints dropped by 60% in 3 months, not because they solved more problems, because customers knew what to expect. Use case 3. This one's subtle, but important. Coffee shop. They had 4 baristas, all good at what they did, but they each had their own style of handling the morning rush. One would chat with every customer, making people wait but creating connection. Another would be all speed, no chat. Another would upsell, another wouldn't. Revenue was inconsistent. Customer satisfaction was inconsistent. They didn't try to make them all the same, but they did create a framework. Greet by name if you know it. Ask about their day during slower times. Focus on efficiency during rush. Mention the pastry special once. Suddenly, customers knew what to expect. Employees knew what was expected, and both revenue and satisfaction stabilized upward. The messy reality. Look, I'm going to be straight with you about something. This isn't easy. Creating consistent customer service in a small business when you're wearing 17 hats and fighting fires every day, it feels impossible sometimes. I get that. There are going to be days when following the protocol feels like it's slowing you down. There are going to be employees who push back because they've always done it this way. There are going to be situations where the documented process doesn't quite fit and you have to make a judgment call. That's all normal. The goal isn't robotic perfection. The goal is predictable excellence. There's a difference. Predictable excellence means your customer can walk in on any day, at any time, with any employee, and have a fundamentally similar experience. The details might vary, personalities are different, that's fine, but the quality, the care, the outcome, consistent. The stakes, making it real. Let's talk about what happens when you don't fix this. You know that feeling when you're working harder than ever, but revenue is flat or declining? This is usually why. You're spending more and more on marketing to replace the customers leaving through the back door. It's like trying to fill a bathtub with the drain open. And here's the thing about customer acquisition costs. They keep going up. Facebook ads cost more than they did 2 years ago. Google ads are more expensive. Organic reach is down. So you're spending more to acquire each customer, and then you're losing them faster because of inconsistent service. It's a death spiral. But flip that around. What if you could reduce your churn by even 20%? What if instead of 68% of customers leaving after inconsistent experiences, you got that down to 48% just by creating consistency? The math gets beautiful fast. Let's say you have 1,000 customers. At 68% churn, you're losing 680 customers. At a 5-to-1 replacement cost, being conservative, if your average acquisition cost is $100, You're spending $68,000 just to maintain your customer base. Drop that to 48% churn, you're losing 480 customers. Same math, that's $48,000. You just saved $20,000 in acquisition costs. Plus, and this is the kicker, those 200 customers you retained, they're buying from you again and again. Customer lifetime value compounds. A professional services firm, we're talking B2B, consulting type work. Their churn was ridiculous, like 70% year over year. They dug into it, and it was the same story. Inconsistent delivery. Depending on which consultant you got, experience varied wildly. We spent 6 months documenting their core processes, training their team, creating quality checkpoints. Year later, churn dropped to 35%. Revenue grew 40% with the same number of new customers. They didn't acquire more, they just kept more. And those retained customers referred others because now they could actually recommend the business with confidence. Quick thing, if you're still with me, I'd love to know. Have you experienced this in your own business? That moment when you realized inconsistency was costing you? Drop a comment and let me know. And if this is hitting home, smash that like button and share this with another business owner who needs to hear it. We're building a community here of people who actually want to do this right, and your engagement helps us reach more people who need this information. The lesson, what to do about it. All right, so what do you actually do with this information? Start small. I mean it. Don't try to document your entire business overnight. Pick one customer touch point that matters most. For most businesses, it's one of these. How you handle complaints. How you answer the phone or respond to initial inquiries. How you onboard new customers. How you handle returns or cancellations. How you follow up after a sale. Pick one, just one, and document it. Here's how. Shadow your best person doing it. Watch what they do. Ask questions. Why did you do that? What were you thinking there? What would you do if this happened instead? Turn their instinct into instruction. Then write it down, not in corporate speak, in plain English. When a customer calls angry, first acknowledge their frustration, then ask what happened. Then, you get the idea. Then train everyone else on it. Role play, practice, make it real. Then, and this is crucial, check in weekly. How are we doing with the new complaint protocol? What's working? What's not? Adjust as needed. Once that one process is humming, pick another, then another. You know what happens? Over 6 months, a year, you've documented your core customer experience. It's not overwhelming because you did it piece by piece, and your team isn't resistant because they help shape it. The discipline part, that's daily. That's observing. That's giving feedback. That's celebrating when someone follows the process perfectly. That's coaching when they don't. That's updating the documentation when you discover a better way. It's not glamorous, it's not sexy. But you know what? Consistent profitability is pretty sexy when you think about it. The call to action, the real work begins. So here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Grab a notebook or open a document. Write down the 3 most common customer interactions in your business. The things that happen every day or every week. For each one, ask yourself, if my best employee and my newest employee both handled this situation, would the customer get the same quality of experience? Be honest. Where the answer is no, that's your starting point. That's where inconsistency is costing you money right now. Pick the one that happens most frequently or has the biggest impact when it goes wrong. That's your first process to document. This week, not someday, this week, spend 2 hours documenting how that should work, what good looks like, what the steps are, what to say, what not to say, what to do if X happens. Then next week, train your team on it, make it real. That's it. That's how you start. Not with some massive consultant-led initiative, not with expensive software, with 2 hours and a commitment to consistency. Because here's the truth. Your competitors are probably not doing this. They're probably running around putting out fires, wondering why customers aren't sticking around, blaming the market or the economy or whatever. You're going to be different. You're going to create an experience that customers can count on. And when they can count on you, they stay. And when they stay, they spend more. And when they spend more, they tell others. It's not complicated, but it does require discipline. The question is, are you willing to do the work that most businesses won't? Look, I've been doing this long enough to know that most people watching this video will nod along, think, yeah, that makes sense, and then do nothing. That's just reality. But you're not most people. You clicked on a video about customer service catastrophes. You watched this far. That tells me you're actually serious about this. So do something. Start small, but start.